Welcome back, coaches. I am just so grateful that you're here with me today. And as we step into this episode, I just want to let you know I woke up this morning with a little tickle in my throat. So hopefully you will be able to hear every word that I say. Okay, I want to start today with something that you may have felt, even if you've never quite said it out loud. There are moments in sessions, maybe a few, maybe more than a few, where you can feel that something isn't quite moving. Not because the session is bad, not because you're not skilled or valuable as a coach, not because your client isn't trying, but something is just not shifting the way that you know it could. Your client understands the pattern that they're caught in, they're engaged, they're working, they really want to change. But underneath all of that, something's still holding them in place. They're not moving. And in those moments, it's easy to start to wonder, am I missing something? Is there a layer with this client that I'm not quite seeing? Should I be able to get further with this person that I'm getting? And if that stuckness shows up enough in session after session, with client after client, it can start to bleed into your business as well. Clients who maybe don't renew, referrals that maybe trickle in but aren't flowing, testimonials that are warm, but not the kind that makes somebody's jaw drop. And sometimes underneath all of that, for the coach, a quieter fear might start to take hold. And it sounds something like, what if I'm not as good as I think I am? Now, here's what I want to say to you before we go anywhere else in that podcast today. If what I'm sharing is landing for you, if any part of this feels familiar or sounds familiar, it is almost certainly not because you're a bad coach. You are not a bad coach. In fact, I'm willing to bet a lot of money that you are a very, very good coach. But instead, if what I'm sharing here sounds familiar with you, it's because no one ever truly taught you how to work with fear. Not surface fear, not mindset only fear, not feel the fear and do it anyway kind of fear. I'm talking about the real thing here. The kind of fear that lives in the body, in the nervous system, in the protective patterns your clients have spent years and sometimes decades building to keep themselves safe. Because here's what I know after 25 years of coaching individuals and also training coaches and therapists and practitioners. When fear is running the show, even the most brilliant strategies, even the deepest insight, even the best accountability structures, they don't fully work. They can fall short if fear itself isn't being worked with directly and skillfully. And so today, I want to walk you through four coaching archetypes that I see all the time in the transformational industry. These coaches, these coaching archetypes, they are not bad coaches. They are not unskilled. Each one, in fact, each of these archetypes has genuine gifts, real superpowers that their clients need and that their clients value. But each one of these coaching archetypes also tends to hit a ceiling when fear is the underlying issue. So I want to walk us through these four archetypes so that we can understand them. And then we'll talk about what a masterful coach who knows how to work with fear masterfully, what that coach does differently, and how they approach fear so that their clients create better results. And so that their clients feel completely wowed and grateful for the work that they do together. Because this shift, it changes everything. So let's get to it. And let's start with the first coaching archetype. I call this one the strategizer. The strategizer, this coach, is often incredibly smart. They're gifted at creating clear, actionable plans and mapping out next steps. The strategizer is really, really good at improving systems and at helping clients get really specific about their goals. And the strategizer, their heart is completely in the right place. When a client is stuck, the strategizer thinks maybe the roadmap wasn't clear enough, or maybe the steps were too big. Let me break them down further. Or maybe if we get more specific, my client will finally be able to follow through. And so they do. They refine the plan, they simplify the steps, they create a better system. They create an incredible strategy. And here's the thing. Strategy, as you know, if you are a good coach, you know strategy genuinely matters. I love strategy. I geek out on strategy. Your clients absolutely need this kind of practical support. But here's where the strategizer can miss what's actually happening when there's fear. If your client already knows what to do and they're still not doing it, the problem is almost never the strategy. Every now and again it is, but most of the time it's something else. It's fear. Fear of visibility, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of what it would actually mean to succeed, or fear of judgment, or fear of the nervous system overwhelm that comes from being fully seen. The fear is real and it's running the show underneath the plan, underneath the strategy. So, what happens next? The strategizer coach gives cleaner action steps. The client nods. Maybe they even feel a spark of motivation in that very moment. They leave the session thinking, okay, this time I've got it. But then they still don't do the thing again. And now the client doesn't just feel stuck, they're also starting maybe to feel ashamed because they've failed to follow through on yet another plan. They might even start to think something must be really wrong with me. Even the smaller baby steps aren't working. And the coach, they usually start to feel something too. Frustrated, confused, maybe a little even resentful of their client. Like, why aren't they doing the work? Do they even want this? But that's not the right question because the client does want it. They want it deeply. What they need isn't a better plan. They need a coach who knows how to stay with them in the moment when fear activates, when they're about to send the email, post the thing, make the ask, and everything in them suddenly wants to pull it all back. That's the moment where strategy alone stops working And that's exactly where working skillfully with fear needs to begin. Now, a quick note here. The strategizer coach, that archetype, it doesn't just show up in your client work. It may also, as you're listening to me describe this, you might recognize that the strategizer shows up in your business. Maybe you are extraordinary at mapping out exactly what your marketing needs to look like, exactly what outreach would bring in new clients, exactly what your next bold move should be, but you're still not quite doing it, right? You're still in the same patterns. So if you recognize the strategizer inside of you, please, please know this is a genuine superpower. The ability to create aligned, effective, practical support is something your clients truly need. And it's something you truly need inside of your own business. It's just that it only becomes transformational when it's paired with the ability to work with the fear that's keeping your clients from the plan that they already have. Okay, so let's move on to the second coaching archetype that I want to share about today. I call this one the insight maker. Ooh, love the insight maker. And I will share with you for a very, very long time, this coaching archetype was me, 100%. Because, hello, I'm a depth nerd, and depth nerds love to make insight. I'm like obsessed with it. Maybe you are too. So, the insight maker is the coach who is often beautifully deep, such a deep soul. They see things often way before others see them and can really like they see it. They see the layers. They see into the depths. And the insight maker helps clients connect patterns, understand childhood roots, recognize limiting beliefs. The insight maker can create profound awareness inside of coaching sessions. And clients can end up having major aha moments. Now, to be clear, all of this is amazing. Everything I just described is so great and so valuable. Insight matters, and it matters so, so much. Awareness can absolutely open doors. And like I said earlier, I myself am a self-declared insight geek. I am obsessed with knowing more and more about myself, my own patterns, the roots of all the things, the hidden keys, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is a lifelong project for me personally, for sure. And I have also always gone to these types of depths with my clients because it's all so valuable for so many reasons. But here's the challenge. Insight on its own doesn't create embodied transformation. It just doesn't. A client can understand exactly why they're afraid to raise their prices, for example, or they can understand exactly why they procrastinate, or exactly why they make themselves small, but they can still keep doing all of those things. And that's because fear often isn't resolved simply through understanding and connecting the dots. Fear needs to also be worked with at the level of the body and the nervous system. It needs to be worked with the level of emotional protection and behavioral response. Otherwise, your clients can become incredibly self-aware, but they still stay stuck. awareness kind of just ends up being the booby prize, right? But it doesn't do much. So your clients, if you're the insight maker, your clients might say things like, I know this comes from childhood, or, oh yeah, I can see I'm people pleasing again right now, or I know what my pattern is. But knowing isn't the same as transforming. And eventually, too much insight without real movement, forward movement, can become exhausting or frustrating for both coach and client because it's a little bit of a sneaky trick, the insight thing. When insight is first created, some insight that's created, it is forward movement. But if it's just insight and more insight and more insight, what ends up happening is it feels maybe in a moment like you're getting somewhere in your sessions with a client. In many ways, you are. But if working with fear doesn't go beyond insight, then it can just end up feeling like you're running in circles or navel gazing for the sake of navel gazing. And of course, this doesn't just happen for our clients. This insight making thing, it can happen for us as well, right? We know ourselves so well. We have so much awareness, but we can still end up not acting on any of it. We can still end up staying stuck. So if you recognize yourself as the insight maker, I want you to know this. I think that insight making is one of the most powerful coaching superpowers that you can have. It is amazing that you have this skill. And I don't know, at least for me, it's a way of life. I'm never going to stop making insight. And all that being said, I also want you to remember true mastery means starting with insight for sure, but then from there, knowing how to move your clients beyond awareness and into sustainable change. Okay, so that brings us to our next coaching archetype. And this one I call the accountability enforcer. This coach believes deeply in structure. They often say, my client just needs stronger accountability. They need firmer deadlines. They need more consistent follow through. And so this coach creates check ins and deadlines and more homework and metrics and often external pressure. And again, for the most part, there is real value here because structure can absolutely support growth and forward movement. I know I need structure in my life and in my projects and in the things that I want to accomplish. But that being said, fear rarely transforms or budges through accountability alone. And in fact, for many clients, increased accountability can feel like increased pressure. And that can actually intensify their fear reactions. So clients may end up people pleasing the coach because they're feeling the pressure of the accountability, or they may end up performing temporarily, but then shutting down or rebelling, or they may end up spiraling in shame when they quote unquote fail, even with the accountability. And then the coaching relationship can subtly become another place where the client feels like they're disappointing someone. And of course, that's not transformation. That's actually just reenactment of older stories and patterns and dynamics. And for the coach in this situation, it can all feel really exhausting because now they're carrying so much responsibility for their clients' actions. Being a coach who knows how to co-create aligned accountability structures is absolutely vital. It is a superpower when you do this well. And it is a superpower when working with fear. There is a place for accountability structures when working with fear for sure. When done masterfully, it helps your clients build their own inner accountability resilience. And it helps them build this accountability resilience in incredibly empowering ways. But accountability on its own rarely helps clients move forward when there is a fear that is blocking them. All right, next archetype. I call this coaching archetype, the nervous system maven. The nervous system maven. This coach understands that the body matters. And this coach might use breath work, regulation practices, grounding and safety tools, somatic awareness, etc., etc. And oh my goodness, this work is incredibly important. And, I'll just share that I am so, so grateful that more and more coaches and therapists and transformational practitioners are understanding the importance of the body and understanding nervous system alignment and health. When I first started coaching 25 years ago, this wasn't the case. I was one of the few coaches out there who were also working with the body and the nervous system. And, I've learned a lot since then too in those 25 years. And I will also share when I started training practitioners, I was like one of the few people around who was bringing the body and somatics and nervous system into coach training. Now, that's not the case. Now, I'm so grateful again because there is so much education on this and it's so needed. But here's an important nuance. Regulation alone, somatics alone, don't always equate with transformation and clients moving forward on their goals. Because some clients become very skilled with your help at calming themselves without actually shifting the fear patterns that keep them small or hold them back. So they may end up feeling safer, which is great. We want that. But somehow they still avoid the bigger move, the bigger actions. They might breathe through discomfort, for example, but they still don't raise their rates. They may know exactly how to ground themselves, which is wonderful, but they still don't have the hard conversations. And that's because fear isn't always asking simply to be soothed. Sometimes fear needs to be skillfully transformed. So if you are a nervous system maven, if you recognize yourself in this archetype, you've got a superpower. Nervous system work, body work is essential. So important. But mastery means knowing how to connect nervous system work and somatic work directly to the fear. Okay, so let's pause here for a moment. And you're probably already thinking about this, but I just want to give us a moment together before we go any further for you to reflect which one of these four archetypes do you see yourself in? And maybe it's a combination of one of these two archetypes. So, do you see yourself in the strategizer? Or do you see yourself in my personal favorite, the insight maker? Or do you see yourself in the accountability enforcer? Or do you see yourself in the nervous system maven? And whichever one of those four that is your archetype or combination of the four that is your archetype, again, you've got skills. Like there are superpowers in each one of those four. You are wonderful as a coach. Don't want this for you to take from this to mean that you are not skilled. But as we've just seen, if you are seeing yourself in one or more of those four, there's some tweaks that you probably want to make moving forward so that you can more effectively help your clients as they encounter fear. Okay, so with that, now I want to tell you about the coaching archetype that masterfully and effectively works with fear. And here's where things start to get even more powerful. So we're going to talk about the archetype of the applied depth coach. And yes, Applied Depth Institute is the name of my business, but I want to let you know as I talk about the Applied Depth Coach, this actually isn't about promoting the name of my business. I named my business very intentionally. It took me a very long time to come up with the name, but I named my business years ago very intentionally because of everything that I'm about to share with you right now. So, this isn't, when I say applied depth coach, this isn't just about depth for depth's sake. It's not insight without embodiment. It's not wisdom without skill. It's not compassion without action or transformation. It's depth that is skillfully applied and made practical in real moments with real fear, creating real change. The applied depth coach understands that fear is not the enemy. Fear is almost always protection. It is intelligent, it is adaptive, and it is oh so deeply human. And because of all of that, the applied depth coach doesn't bulldoze fear or bypass it or shame it or strategize around it. The applied depth coach knows how to work with it. So, what does that actually look like? It means that you have a real learnable process for working with fear, not a script that you follow rigidly, but a flexible somatic framework that gives you genuine direction in the room. If you're an applied depth coach, you know how to help clients recognize when fear is present. You know how to help them stay with it long enough to actually hear what it's saying and expand capacity. And you also know how to guide your clients into clarity and aligned action, step by step. Being an applied depth coach also means that you have a trauma-informed somatic skill set that makes everything I just shared possible. You know how to track the subtle cues, the shift in breath, the moment a client goes slightly flat, the energy that drops out of a conversation. And you know what to do with what you notice. You understand how to work safely with a client's window of tolerance. You know when to move forward, when to slow down, when to change course entirely. An applied depth coach has also done this work themselves, the fear work. not just intellectually, in the body, in your own nervous system. You've befriended your own fears, the ones that show up in client sessions and the ones that also shape how visible you let yourself be in your business. Because you can only take a client as far as you've been willing to go yourself. And the applied depth coach, she's gone there. It also means that you are prepared for the unexpected. The applied depth coach is prepared for the client who shuts down in the middle of a breakthrough, for the session that goes somewhere that you didn't anticipate, for the group where one person's fear starts to activate everybody else's fear. Real sessions are not predictable and they're not linear, and the applied depth coach doesn't need them to be. They know how to skillfully guide clients through those moments in ways that feel safe and powerful and deeply transformative. And this changes not only your client's life, it changes your life too. Because this coach, the applied depth coach, is no longer constantly questioning, am I doing harm? What if I take someone somewhere that they're not ready to go? What if I'm actually not as good as people think I am? Can I really hold this level of depth? If I grow, can I truly deliver? No, instead, the applied depth coach builds something that is so needed: deep self-trust. They begin to know, I can trust myself in the moments that matter most. I can skillfully help clients navigate fear. I know how to create profound transformation safely. The applied depth coach knows all of this. And oh my goodness, this identity shift is everything. Because when you know this about yourself, you market differently, you sell differently, you lead differently, you coach differently. Not from insecurity, not from overcompensation, and not from fear of being found out, but from grounded confidence. So, if you've been listening today and you're recognizing yourself somewhere in all of these archetypes, and particularly in the strategizer or the insight maker or the accountability enforcer or the nervous system maven, I know I've already said this a few times, but I just want to say it one more time very clearly. You are not behind. You are not failing. You have real gifts, and real depth. And you may simply be at the edge of your next level. Because most coaches were never truly taught how to work with fear at the level where it's actually operating. And that's not a personal failing. It's just a gap in what most training programs cover. And here's what I want you to know. When you close that gap, things shift in ways that go far beyond just getting better client results. And I hate to say getting better client results because we're always co-creating results with our clients. We're not getting them, right? When you know how to close that gap, your sessions deepen, your confidence steadies, you stop second guessing yourself in the hard moments, and you start showing up in your business with less hiding and more genuine presence. And when you know how to work with fear in this way, when you're that applied depth coach, your clients feel the difference. And they often tell others about the incredible experience that they've had with you. So I want to give you something to take into your week if all of this is resonating with you. Well, hopefully, again, that first something is that you are amazing exactly as you are. And this is just being on your next edge. But I want to give you a piece of homework if you'd like on all of this to take into your week. After your next few client sessions, I want you to sit with the following question. And you can even journal on it. It can be really helpful to journal on this question. Where did I feel the pull to do something? Maybe to offer a strategy or push for accountability or go deeper into insight. When what might have actually been needed was to go deeper to work with the fear. Now, whatever you notice as you track your client sessions, however you answer this question, don't judge it. And don't even rush to fix it. Really just notice. Because that moment where you feel pulled to offer the strategy, to push for accountability, to go deeper into the insight, or to do another regulation technique, even though it hasn't been moving your client forward, that pull is usually where the fear is in your client and sometimes in you, right? And noticing is where the work begins. And if you want to know what to do with what you notice, I have two invitations for you. The first is a free live training that I'm hosting called Why Your Clients Stay Stuck, an introduction to the Befriend Your Fear somatic method. This is a 90-minute free deep dive where I'll walk you through what's actually happening when clients resist or avoid or don't follow through, even when they're insightful and motivated and genuinely want to change. And in those 90 minutes, we'll also look at what becomes possible when you know how to work with fear at the level where it's actually operating. I'll drop the link to register in the show notes, and I would truly, truly love to see you at that masterclass. And if something in you is already saying, yes, this is the work that I've been looking for, and I want to go deeper than in a single masterclass, then I also want you to know that the masterclass is just the beginning. There is a full Befriend Your Fear method certification experience where coaches, therapists, and transformational practitioners learn to truly integrate this work, not just understand it, but embody it and apply it skillfully in real sessions with real clients. Inside of the certification, you'll develop mastery across the same four areas that we talked about earlier. You'll get a real step-by-step somatic process for working with fear. You'll get the trauma-informed skill set that lets you track what's actually happening and respond in real time. You'll do your own deep inner work so that your capacity as a practitioner expands from the inside out. And you will also be prepared for the unexpected, for the sessions that don't go as planned, the clients who shut down, the moments where you genuinely aren't sure what's next. Because truly, that's where mastery lives. So, when you come to the masterclass, I'll share more about the certification. But that being said, I'm also going to drop a link for the certification because there's some special pricing on it right now. And with that, my friends, I want to end with this. I want you to know that the world genuinely needs you. It needs all of you, and your clients need you, and your future clients need you. And I am just so grateful that you are doing the work that you're doing in the world. As always, thank you so much for spending your time with me here today. I know time is precious. I don't take it for granted. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please, on whatever platform you're listening, give it 5 stars, give it a good review, and also pass it on to anyone you know who might really find it helpful. And with that, I'll see you next time.